In this video, we're going to be looking at the S&P 500, the Nasdaq, the US dollar index, gold, silver, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and we're going to put it all together to see what's next.
I want you to picture for a moment exactly what your life would look like if you were a millionaire. The truth is you would have a lot of the same concerns, consistently working hard to grow as a person and develop fruitful, loving relationships all around you. Your greatest concern in life would still be your health and the health of those around you. There would be one main difference though, and it's an important one. You would no longer have to worry about money. You would have the freedom to do what you wanted, when you wanted. You would have control. Financial freedom is the freedom to be able to make choices. The choices about what you do with your most precious resource, your time, who you spend it with, and where and what you do with it. I want you to open yourself up as we begin to talk about what it takes to become rich trading. Traders are often very concerned with how much money they can make and how quickly they can make it. And each day and each trading session is approached as almost the improbable or impossible. The reason I want to share this formula with you is because it's very important to have the correct mindset, the mindset of an investor. And it's important to focus on this formula for the bigger picture. And this is going to help you to be able to execute, which is what you need to do in order to achieve your goals. You need to be able to execute. So let's take a look. Starting with a $3,000 balance.
How do you get there? How do you achieve your goals? Where are you starting from? If you're starting with just a $3,000 balance today, and you are committing to making for the next 5 years, regularly, yearly, another $3,000 deposit, what is that, like $260 or so a month? Go ahead and take a look, and the rate of return. You know, holding Bitcoin, what do you think you could do? What do you think you could achieve yearly? I think the average rate of return annually is something closer to about 120%. Take a look at some of these numbers. 2017, 1,300, 2020, 300, that's 2019, 87, and 2018, 72. These two cancel each other out. You're looking over 4 years, 1,600 divided by 4. You're looking at 400% a year. There you go. Mean annual return, 400%, showing the percent change for every year into Bitcoin. It's a couple of down years. 2022, right? Good chance it's a down year as well. That's what I'm expecting. Not being invested, whether that's worth it to you during these bear market years, it could have a significant change in your overall accumulation. That's for some more advanced stuff. So you can see, even if we did experience something like drastically diminishing returns, instead of 400% over the last 4 years, maybe we're looking something forward at like 200%. But even if we only get 70%, what happens if you use something realistic? What happens if you use something like a 30% return over the next 5 years in Bitcoin? You're looking at taking a total deposit over 5 years, $18,000, and growing your account to $46,000. That's only over a 5-year period. But it's also with a 30% return. I think that I personally expect to achieve over a 70% return annually in Bitcoin over the next, 10 years? Absolutely. So let's take a look at that. Let's make that 10 years, 70%. I think underestimating greatly over there. We'll see. We don't know. I think it's safe. I think it's safe to work out my plan using 70% expected return in Bitcoin over the next 10 years. And then you're taking that $33,000, you're turning it into $2 million. Now, $2 million is comfortable. You could basically buy whatever you want whenever you need it. Really very comfortable. But the thing is, when I first started doing this, I did this with 11 years. It was an 11-year plan with 3 halving events. And if you really want to plan this out correctly, starting today, you could go ahead over the next 11 years, expect to have 3 more halving events. Next one, it's every 210,000 blocks. Next one, estimate 20,000, 24, 20,000, 28, 20,000, 32. But the thing is the bull market happens the year after the halving. So you're going to want to make this a 12-year plan, 70% annual return. Now you're looking, total deposits over those 12 years, $39,000, $3,000 a year. You're committing to this plan, to your investment plan. And then you're looking at, $5 million if we hit our expected 70%. Anything could happen. Understand your risk and what your risk is before you make any investment. And do not invest any more than you could afford to lose. But make sure you make calculated risks. Is this a calculated risk? Now, if it was just an 85% annual return in Bitcoin over the next 12 years, you would be looking at something, $15 million. That's from here on up, you go on borderline ridiculous for a 12-year plan. But 70%, 12 years, next 3 halvings, you're starting today. $5 million is rich. $2 million, you're definitely comfortable, no question about that. But $5 million, I would say that it's a great plan to have in place. I think it's foundational, fundamental, that anyone beginning before anything else should have this plan in place. And then you could go ahead and leverage different investments. Why does it matter? If we're experiencing diminishing returns, then we want to be following a roadmap, a guide that is giving us that clarity that we could position in and out. If you're just buying Bitcoin and holding it for the next 10 years, you don't have to do anything. You could walk away. But if you're trying over those next 2 years, where you already have that fundamental plan in place to acquire as much Bitcoin as you can and doing it in a very calculated, risk-averse way, then it really matters to understand these price movements. 150 days, that's a small time frame to be looking at and considering for this type of investment. The 2012 cycle, you can see here in 2013, peaking higher. This is 11x, an 11x, 7x. Are we going to see something like a 9x, something in the average of the two? As we've seen up until this point, this cycle has been an average in volatility to the upside. It's been an average of the 2 cycles in volatility to the downside. And as far as consolidation and sideways so far up until this point, it's been an average of the 2. Will the return also be a 9x? If I can get it, I want it all. I will take what the market gives me though. Honestly, if you're not part of the training program, if you're not with us on the Discord and you have not watched all the training videos that we put together, that I put together, whether it's how to trade and profit from the markets on a swing trader's perspective, focused on the currency markets so that you could trade all markets, or specifically the Bitcoin exit series, talking about what that cycle peak looks like, talking about how Bitcoin and altcoins react with each other. That stuff done months ago. Everything that we said is playing out. Absolute fire. What's going on, everybody? Mic check, mic check. We are live. Everybody, listen, good morning. Happy Taco Tuesday. So glad to be here with you all in this special moment of time. Actually, Miles setting it correct this morning, talking about there are 2 ways to live your life. One is though nothing is a miracle. The other is though everything is a miracle, attributed to Albert Einstein, laser eyes, and it's true. Life is a miracle, and I'm so grateful for this moment in time, in eternity, with all you right now. This is going to be a very special episode. You don't understand what's going to unfold here today. We're going to be looking at the macro, the technicals. We're going to be introducing new things. Before we do, if you hadn't had the opportunity yet to watch yesterday's video, it's titled Bitcoin's Massive 217 Bull Market. And if you understand how massive the 2017 bull market was, specifically what happened in that later half, from the low of the mid-cycle shakeout into that cycle peak, if you understand the degree of that move and how to time it, then perhaps you too could be looking at doing something different than holding Bitcoin over the next 10 years. Fundamental plan, looking for that, what I believe to be somewhere around a 70% return over the next 12 years. You could do that, and that's the foundational. It's why it's at the beginning of the video, right? Or you could actually work out making a few calculated, let's call it, trades at particular times and drastically reduce the gains to the upside and take away the gains to the downside. Imagine what 200% yearly compounding would do over the next 5 years, over the next 12 years. You have to watch this video to understand what's happening right now. If you're not subscribed to the channel, go ahead and do that. And in your own time, when you can, take a look at just these most recent videos. They are absolute stellar, each one jam-packed with very important information, including my price predictions. It hasn't changed. I've been steadfast. Take a look at the work we're doing here. in today's episode, we're going to be focused on other markets as well, most specifically Ethereum. Now, we're going to take a look at Bitcoin. I mean, when we look at Bitcoin, I mean, who was the first, right? Who was the first to tell you as we're breaking outside of that descending wedge, our eyes on looking on the most important trend line in crypto, and that would be a potential place for the sellers to make a move. Now there's but Jordan, it's not the sellers selling off of the most important trend line in crypto. This morning, do you hear the SEC wants more regulation, right? We'll take a look at that in a little bit, why that perhaps has the sellers giving them the opportunity to build off this technical break down, retest, resumption off. We were there as it was unfolding. We were there before it unfolded, but we'll take a look at that in a little while. Let's keep moving here. Look, I think the greatest signal today is going to come down to this, because we have a lot of macro to talk about in this episode. If you're here, please take a moment to smash the like button and help the channel with the Google algorithm. Really appreciate that. Look, you have mixed messages coming out from the Fed chairs. Very important for putting together this puzzle. At the end of the day, what have we been saying from the beginning? That this is going to be endless QE, that they can't stop, right? And here we have the former governor fears danger of endless QE. Why we're talking about that is because you're going to see yesterday there were there was Fed governors talking about the tapering, right? Jackson Hole's coming up this month. What is the conversation going to be? The Fed is going to be working on one of their most important tools. That's that verbal intervention, right? That's their play, their bluff at the table. And what is that? Right now, they're talking about tapering. What's that going to look like? Markets are a little bit concerned about what that looks like for them. We're going to put it all together by following the charts, right? We're going to put it together in our own time over here. What do we start with? Do we get into the technicals, focus on the charts? No, we do not have enough likes yet. For that, we'll come back to that later. What are we going to move over to? Listen, as today I begin a new focus on Ethereum. If Ethereum over the next 5 months is going to have some pretty spectacular moves, and there's a bunch of you out here who would like to be able to navigate that as best as possible as we're getting ready for the breakout, right? Mid-cycle over here, I think it's time we focus on Ethereum price action regularly to help as many people as possible who are focused on that time preference. Now, this is I'm assuming now that everyone has the fundamental plan in place that we discussed at the beginning of this video. And if you haven't yet, and I watch the video several times a day and will continue to do so. And I've been actually implementing this plan since 2019. It's 2019. I'm years in advance, already past the halving. And, anyway, I'm going to do it on Ethereum too. With that in mind, I think it's like my subconscious perhaps yesterday putting out this video. Where did I have it? We have so much to talk about. Ted, he shares the coolest information all the time. So grateful for it. We're going to be looking at that a little later. We're really getting into what's going on in the economy and the macro. And that's why we're going to be highly focused on the charts. I'm looking for my ETH 2.0 tweet. Where'd it go? It's gone. Did you see that I posted that tweet? And not too many people liked it. Only like 40 people liked it. It was a tweet with, introducing ETH. I got to find the tweet. What happened to it? Hold on. We can't continue the show until I get, let me try to reopen last club. So sorry. I'm going to go to Twitter. I'm going to pull it up. Boom. Why it's important here, because I want everyone to know my true feelings. Ethereum, you got to understand the risks. It is highly speculative, right? That's why it's expected to outperform. There's greater risk there. There's greater potential. Is it all going to happen? By the way, in this video, people are answering right now. I just tweeted this more. There's emphasis over privacy and scaling when it comes to Ethereum 2.0. I am interested to know how that works. If anyone has any information, please do respond to this thread over here. But I mean, listen.
Quack, quack. private
This is
scale all the full nodes.
Proof of stake is hard, but what I do know is when we learn a shard, we'll change the whole game, though.
I mean, this is
E2.0
real.
yo, E2.0 yo, E2.0 yo, E2.0 yo. Shot 3, BLS, and Lamport, and all of this crypto just sets the stage for Merkle proofs, plasma chains, plap plap. Seekers knocks coming over, clap clap. Privacy scaling in a snap snap. Constant products oracles, tap tap.
privacy and scaling, snap, snap. That's the presentation, my friends. No, but listen, it is highly speculative. That's why we're looking for it to outperform. By how much is it going to outperform? Here you have Ethereum in red outperforming Bitcoin, right? In high correlation with Bitcoin, lows and highs, swing lows and highs being put in together, but Ethereum outperforming. And if Bitcoin is going to go back and is on back, to have the same trajectory it did in 2017. Yesterday, we looked at that massive move in 2017 from the low of the mid-cycle into that cycle peak. The area that potentially that we're in right now. Now, we don't know that for sure. We don't know that for sure until what? Until the most important trend line in crypto breaks. Is it a matter of time, in your opinion, in my opinion, before it breaks? We're setting it up. It could even be this week. I know right now crypto's under pressure. Again, we're going to talk about what is happening this morning with the SEC. They're talking also about a US Bitcoin ETF that's going to come with what? Increased regulation, right? Careful what you wish for, Anyway, we'll talk about that in a little bit, but I want to focus on this right now. Are we going to see Ethereum outperforming Bitcoin for, into the finish line? That's what we expect. Why do we expect that? Because last cycle, 4 years ago, Ethereum, this is it in green. You could see this looks like almost like Bitcoin 2013 with the double wave and a long consolidation, a really long consolidation. And why it was consolidating, Bitcoin was running 4 years ago during that 2017 bull market. Now, Ethereum caught up in the end. It had that massive second alt-season cycle peak blow off top, right? But this cycle, it looks like that Ethereum is going to continue tracking Bitcoin's moves on time instead of consolidating while Bitcoin's running. Now, that could change, but we're trying to stay as focused as possible right now. That could change, but right now, this is what we believed. This was something that Ian has actually held this thesis for a while now, going back 2 or 3 months when we were looking at in the CTM training videos. Is that what continues? It certainly looks like it as we get past what I believe to be the low of the mid-cycle shakeout, right? And we start coming up right now. So we want to focus on Ethereum over here with Bitcoin. But be careful. I just want everyone to understand Ethereum is speculative technology. Now, Bitcoin is different. Bitcoin is proven technology, right? Are there updates to the code? Of course, we just had one. What is it? When is it activated? I'm not even sure. All right, let's keep going. I can't wait. So awkward. Peter threw me off, man. So sorry about that. Let's start with Ethereum then in itself, and this is how I'm lining it up with the candles, okay? When I put in my trend lines, I am always using the candles and not the area line chart that I've recently started viewing all instruments on. So I have to see over here, here's the candle top, the cycle, another here is a wick top. I'm connecting the wicks of these candles. Now, sometimes it will be the bodies of the candles that I use, and I see that price is paying attention to that. I showed you that in real time on Twitter as we were breaking out, or before we broke out of this wedge. People were wondering what the correct trend line was. I showed you how I was not using the wick, but I was using the bodies in this case, and then the resistance over here, and you could see the clean breakout, the retest, and the resumption off. It was the correct line. The markets are fluid, and I am fluid, and trying to pay as close attention to what the markets are paying attention to. Before we get into Ethereum, which obviously I really would like to do with you all today, we just need a couple of more likes. If you're just joining us and you haven't yet smashed the like button, go ahead and do that. We're going to get into the charts across the board, starting with Bitcoin, then Ethereum, moving over to the stock indexes. We want to take a look at the dollar over here for sure, and then we'll end it with gold and silver. Right? Oh, sorry about that, Peter. Now it makes sense. Suddenly it's all clear. You know, listen, does Ethereum have a big future? It's all speculation, you know, and speculate according. If you're a speculator, decide what portion of your funds that you want to speculate with, right? I'm Bitcoin only. I prefer Bitcoin only, and that's how I'm positioned. I understand the risks. I have really run the numbers, and I've come down to the conclusion that I want to be focused on Bitcoin. Nevertheless, a market's a market. Put it in front of me, and I'll show you how to trade it. It's all done off of support and resistance, right? Let's go ahead and look at it right now. And we're looking at Bitcoin as we broke out of that breakout retest resistance, though, right away and immediately, I said what we're looking at is price coming into the resistance of the most important trend line in crypto, right? Way ahead of everybody. And that happened, that occurred. Now we haven't broke out yet. All that matters is the breakout here, right? That's what we're focused in on now. Once we break out of here, all of a sudden, we have momentum coming into what we believe to be, the closing run, the double wave into liftoff of the cycle peak. That's what we're looking for. And if that lines up, because we see it, we're going to nail it, right? If you can make a few different moves, calculated moves at the right time during the course of the year, do you think that you could bring up your average return over the next 4 years, a complete halving, over the next 210,000 blocks? Do you believe that you have the possibility? This is playing the bull market, the bear market, and then even front run in the halving event. Do you think that you could average 200% a year? Do you think that you could have a potential 7 to 9x, or 7x would be, just maintaining the pace of the last bull market? Maybe we see diminishing returns. Are we looking at a 5x from here? Are we looking at something like $160,000, a 4x? All these things are possible, but if you have the potential with diminishing returns to put in a 4x over the next 5 months, is that something that could substantially increase that yearly compound rate? I think so. I think you could do it. I think you have to put in the time if you're going to do it. I think you have to put in the same amount of time that I put in, that everyone here at CTM puts in, right? And that's how we do it. All right, the market's going to dump. So what's happening next is, the next thing I did is I put out this trend line over here. And I did it on Twitter as it's occurring. And I was like, I know we could find it. Here we go. And I was like, look, here's the damage is being done. I did it on the 2 hour, right? As it was occurring. Here was the first break. And I said, look, bears have a trigger. I don't know if this angle holds or not, but it's the bulls' turn to fight. What do the bulls have in them right now? This is the psychology behind the trade, right? This is ahead of time, I said, this is the battle point for the sellers. If the sellers are going to make a move, it will not come down here. It would come off of the most important trend line in crypto. You had the breakdown of the trend line, right? And then we go ahead, show it on the 8 hour then, as it held, breakdown, retest, resumption off. And here we are right now. What's next? That's the question. What's next? Obviously we could trade down lower. That's not what I'm focused in on. You can see what I'm focused in on right here. This angle over here, waiting for the break to the upside. And I expect the break of this next trend line takes us back into the most important trend line in crypto. Now, I don't know if price holds over here, or if price trades down lower, or where price bottoms out, even if it's somewhere down around $32,000. I have no idea. That's not what I'm looking for and or tracking. I was looking for the break of if you're in this trade, listen, I don't think that selling Bitcoin in a bear market is a good thing to do. If you're doing that, then simply manage your risk. Here's your entry. You know where your stop is. And because of your risk, if you're targeting something like $32,000, if you're a short-term trader, it's a really good opportunity to take. What do I mean by that? Your risk to reward ratio is such that it's like 3 to 1, just coming into the area of what would be support, looking for that area to take profit if you're selling. If you break down further, it could develop into something more. Anyway, I digress. I don't even know what I was thinking or the point I wanted to make to you, right? The downside is clear for everyone, and everyone should see it, right? Nevertheless, what I am looking forward to and focused on is this. I'm watching this line over here. I believe once we break out, it's taking me back into the most important trend line in crypto. This will be a bigger test than the first one. We expected, right? Or I didn't know what was going to happen, but the line of thought that I presented to everyone was that, and this was when price was over here, breaking out, retest, resuming off, that price next would move into the most important trend line in crypto and probably not break on the first attempt. And here the sellers, they're putting up a fight. What do the bulls do with it? If they're able to break this current little bit of momentum and come into the most important trend line in crypto, that's the real battle. Let's see what happens on the second test. What do the sellers have left in them? That's the battle to watch. Beyond that, and the breakout of that sets off me following forward momentum. I've been saying that for months. As soon as price breaks out of the most important trend line in crypto, I don't like that view. As soon as price breaks out the most important trend line in crypto, I think it's a matter of time before we not only reach, test, but take out the new all-time highs, and then Bitcoin goes on to run over here for its double wave into its liftoff cycle peak. So do I think that I'm looking to attack early before we break the most important trend line in crypto? If we get a break of this trend line over here, is that a good entry coming into the most important trend line in crypto? You could see that I'm changing my focus, right? You could see that I'm changing my focus now, moving to and getting ready for some trading as momentum's about to return or soon to return to the crypto markets. Ethereum, US Bitcoin, by the way, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm interested to see, and I don't know what's going to happen and who's going to lead. But I think that Ethereum is going to be making tremendous gains either way versus the US dollar. Tremendous gain. Do I think it's only a matter of time before Ethereum makes new all-time highs and then really continues its run during the run of the bull of all bulls? Absolutely. That's my thesis. Here's the line lighting it up. You could see just taking the recent May 2021 high and then this high we just put in just yesterday or the day before on Ethereum. Getting above that is what's going to send Ethereum, right? Now you can see right here, we had some damage. Here's the 8 hour. Here's the breakdown coming in for that retest. A resumption off here. If Ethereum starts making lower lows, for sure, on a short time frame, the sellers have control, right? We'll do the same thing that we're doing on Bitcoin. We will line up whatever that looks like whenever we have the next line of repair that we could put in for that short time preference, looking as it moves into that trend line, right? So right now, if you're trading on a short time frame on Ethereum, you're selling Ethereum, right? You're not buying Ethereum until you see a repair take place. Now, that's if you're just entering the market. And by the way, nothing that I say or share with you is to be taking it any other thing but for educational advice, not financial advice. I'm here showing you what I've learned in the markets 20 plus years. I'm sharing that with you, creating here a ripple that's going to reach across time, is going to reach across the world, and is going to drastically change lives. That's the goal, to help as many people possible around the world live better lives. All right, let's take a look at what's going on here in the markets. S&P 500, I'm going to jump over outside the candles. The reason I was showing you the candles is because when it comes down to trading, my trend lines are drawn off the candles. They're drawn mainly off the wicks of these candles, right? But there are times when I'm focused on the body. It depends on what the market is showing me, right? It's that fluidity that helps me to be able to have the accuracy I do at the times that I do. S&P 500, how's it looking, right? It's consolidating right below the all-time high. Entirely bullish structure over here. When's the next opportunity for this structure to break down? I have it drawn in for you. I'm going to jump over to the candles, and you can see over here, I'm starting with this point over here at the bottom left of the chart. I have a touch over here, right? Now, this is from where we are in real time. If you're not doing this in real time, by the way, before I go any further, you have to be very careful about how you trade the market you're trading. What do I mean by that? Right? Should you be careful about selling Bitcoin in a bull market? Right? Should you be careful about selling equities and indexes? Or I should have said indexes. Should you be careful about selling indexes? Right? What's your strategy? Is it to dollar cost average into the indexes? Right? Is it to buy, 5% dips on the indexes? Are you looking for a correction 10% or more before you look to position into the index? You have to, it's hard for me to make the case for equities going forward, right? Now, equities for sure are in pace with what? The central bank's balance sheets, right? If you're holding dollars, you lose, right? Ray Dalio, cash is trash. If you're holding dollars, the purchasing power is going to continue to devalue. Do you put it into technology, into the equity markets, right? Nasdaq's been a beast, right? Does that continue, right? Because it's going up and drastically, does that mean that it's going to correct, right? This time is not different. It's never different, but trying to time those bubbles is really, really difficult. Even if you think that something is irrational, the markets can remain irrational longer than you can remain solvent. It's not about being right in your long-term view. It's about being able to time the move that's taking place right now, right? You could pull a Peter Schiff. You could be on the wrong side of a market, gold for 9 years. You can't, when then gold 9 years later makes a new all-time high, you can't be like, look, see, I was right. You were really wrong for too long. Do you want to be invested in the Nasdaq, in technology, right? What are the risks? Are rising rates really the greatest risk for technology? How come we're not seeing rates rise right now? That might be a topic for the next video, even tomorrow's video, right? The perfect storm, is it actually brewing for Bitcoin here? Are we going to see rates, bottoming out around this range over here? And are we going to see them rising back up to test what is the most important trend line in 10-year yields? And if that breaks out this second half, that would be a surprise to a lot of people, but it might be a surprise to everyone who thinks that the Fed is getting ready here to what? To taper. Is the Fed gonna, and what happens if the Fed tapers? We have to have it all. Jordan, surely you need some cash if the stock market falls 35%. Michael, yes. In any type of, let's call it system, I don't want to say systematic, in any type of pressure of the system, as you saw in February, March 2020, at that point, dollar's king, cash is king. Cash is king because you're able to buy everything up on the cheap if you have it, right? But that moment in time is the anomaly. In my career, it's happened twice. The dot-com crash, the bubble and the crash, that was like what got me interested in the markets. I was not participating in the markets. I learned to trade in a bear market. Nasty conditions, from coming out of the dot-com bust. So, where are we? Where was I going? Gold, S&P 500. Let's bring it back. Let's talk about it, right? Entirely bullish structure. There's no, Michael, is this a time to get into cash? No signs of that happening right now. We'll talk about the dollar next and the DXY and the race of fiat versus fiat. Right? If we see a breakdown of this trend line, that would be the first indication that we're seeing some type of technical damage being done, and we'll make sure that we're on top of it. Nasdaq, same thing. Here's the line of attack. I'm just going to show you it on the candle before we get going. You can see why I have it. Yes, it would have started like this. This is what you would be looking at, and this would have been a damage taking place. Now, let me go ahead and just bring that up a tiny bit, just to try to get that accuracy for you. All right, let me go back and jump into real time. This would, before this damage occurred, this was the trend line. This is your first opportunity to attack here if you're looking to sell and or hedge or protect yourself. Your stop loss was what? The swing high over there, right? It would have been taken out. Once it's taken out, and by the way, if you were looking to sell over here, I don't think anyone should be selling these things outside of some type of system pressure going on, right? And we're not seeing that right now. If that's your risk, right, what were you looking to achieve? If you're trying to play like a 10% correction on the US indexes, like why? That's my question. But anyway, and nevertheless, so don't sell the indexes until we're selling the indexes. That's the only time to sell them, when we see like a real breakdown. Once that's stopped out, you go ahead, you move the line over there. There's the next line we're looking for the next damage to be done, and make sure if anyone's looking to protect themselves and or hedge, they're ready. And you could see this is the next line we're lining up to the upside for the continuation. We're consolidating right now between the two. If you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and take a moment to do that. You want to be here with the CTM fam, but it's Taco Tuesday. Before I continue, I'm going to continue with the DXY. We're going to take a look at the dollar. We're going to move over to gold and silver. And maybe, just maybe, if we get, what are we at? If we could hit 500 likes, we'll take a look at WTI crude as well. Oh, I didn't even get started. In what I want to discuss with you. That's the Treasury. Remember we talked about when the Treasury was sitting on that 1.2, I think it was $1.4 trillion. And then they were going to spend it all. This was at the beginning of the year. And we talked about when they finished, that was that stealth QE taking place. It was on the par with how much money the Federal Reserve had injected the last 12 months, as well, as they're doing $1.4 trillion a year, right? Well, they're reversing that liquidity Sinumi. Is that how you pronounce it? Sunumai? Sunumai meme. So they're reversing that, and they're going to be building up over the course of the year. The Treasury plans on to borrow another $1.4 trillion in the second half of 2021, and it hopes to end the year sitting on $800 billion in cash. This is going to be moving the other way. The Treasury cash balance sheet is going to be moving upwards now, right? Now that's $800 billion is well below the $1.7 trillion it held at the end of 2020. I said 1.4, it's $1.7 trillion that it held, right? How does that affect the markets? Is there less liquidity out there? Is there too much liquidity out there? Why does the Fed or the Treasury, is there a difference between the Fed and the Treasury these days? As former Fed Chairman Janet Yellen is now the U.S. Treasury Secretary. Are they working in unison and together? Yeah. Who is the Federal Reserve? Have you taken that red pill yet? Do you understand the monetary system, the fractional reserve central banking system? That's where it all begins. You cannot understand Bitcoin and the bullish case for Bitcoin without understanding the current monetary system, right? So why are they doing that? What's happening next? It's, we're looking into September and schools are opening, I hope. Kids are going back to school, teachers going back to work. We're going to see, the economy pick up a bit over here, in a big way. Do they feel that they could lay off the gas a little bit? It looks like it. By the way, some big news for those that are interested. I'm keeping, keeping up to breast from afar, right? But we're looking at 32% of U.S. households, right, who missed their July housing payments. Why that matters? We're looking at the support from the federal government. I'm sorry, I had this jumping back to there before we go back to what's going on here with the federal aid ending, and we have Congress, right, on break for the next how many weeks? Is it 7 weeks? I don't know how long. Does anyone know how many weeks they're on break for right now, as we're looking at no longer help for people on rent? What's that? We'll talk about it in 1 second. I have this highlighted in blue. That too will change once the Fed begins tapering, and certainly once QE is over. Although we aren't holding our breath, this brought me back to what I'm talking about in the very beginning over here, when I said the greatest signal that we're looking at is that they can't stop, right? That we're looking at endless QE. The Fed is trying to tell you right now that they're looking to taper. We got Jackson Hole coming up. What is the Fed going to be? How are they going to be orchestrating and manipulating the markets? That's what we want to find out. I don't know where I was over there. Evictions looming, right? As Congress fails to extend the ban. This is, I was looking at the numbers yesterday. George sent over this video and he said, I wonder how this is going to affect the markets. When George sent something over, I know it's good. I watched this Tim Pool, I believe it is, or Timcast video. And, the question is, how is it going to affect the markets if we see all of a sudden a bunch of people evicted, that we see people that the landlords then can't pay their mortgages? Is this the start of a domino that's going to cause some type of insolvency event within the system? Listen, I just don't think so. I think that they're looking for a reason to be able to print more money. If they're going to create that reason, it's temporary. It's not signal. Now, a lot of people could suffer. A lot of people could really, and a lot of people are already suffering, right? The truth is that these politicians, they don't care about us, right? We saw that coming into the 2020 election when the federal government did not pass help for those that needed it and were in need because they were unable to work because of the pandemic, that there were political games played on both sides, right? We have to separate our politics from the markets, what is happening, what we're being fed, the propaganda that we're being fed all the time to manipulate us, right? What the Fed is looking to taper. The Fed is going to raise rates. We're raising rates. Everything's okay. Anyway, let's get back to it. What else? I think I need a sip of water here. 40 minutes in strong. Want to make sure that you know what? This is what I was looking for the second half push, so that we could continue with everything else that we got prepared. We didn't even get into Giles's chart on the dollar or the US dollar, gold, silver, right? Wondering what happens over here at $35,000. Well, we'll skip this part really quick, right? I told you earlier in this session, right? For me, I'm focused on the next move into the most important trend line in crypto. Do you think price is going to stop there? Do you think that we're going to make new all-time highs? You know your levels. You got this. I became involved on the shorter time preference. I become involved once price breaks the most important trend line in crypto. I am lining her up on a break. I think it's coming soon. We're going to be watching it. We know right now the sellers took control. We lined up the spot where the sellers could possibly take control. And then once they had the trigger, we were there. We understand who has the ball right now. We're waiting to see the bulls take it back. Justin, we'll talk about this in the training session, talking about the Australian dollar, central bank announcing expected reductions in purchases, tapering taking place out of Australia, right? And what that means for the Aussie dollar. Let's take a look at the US dollar. No, head snack. It's Taco Tuesday. This is what I was looking for to set off the second half of the stream. I'm going to drop some. I spoke to Head Snack yesterday. He's doing fantastic. If anyone has a moment over here and wants to go ahead and just in the comments of below, because of this beautiful, beautiful gift that he gave us, and just let him know congratulations on the new move, he'll be stoked to hear that.
Analyzing the charts, hitting projected targets within the margin. Find the flow, sip the matcha, and wait for the waves to come in with lobsters. The kind-hearted Jordan Fosters, working smarter, not harder to move the markers. On his way to conquer, trading and investing, drinking the coffee while reflecting on the blessing. The markets are not crashing, the prices might be slashing just to pretend they're in fashion. See the like button, comments and smash it. Boom, boom, Jordan in the room. Grab the bull by the horns and to the moon. Flow from the plateau, make the play. Boom, boom, it's a taco day.
It's a taco day. It's a taco day. Head snack. Love the opportunity to catch up. I never read The Creature from Jekyll Island. I did, however, I saw the Zygist, right, on this, and it was like one of the first red pills that I ever took. Understanding, Jekyll Island, how, JP Morgan and the richest families of the time headed off to the island off of Georgia, and then created the act, the Federal Reserve Banking Act, passed in 1913, December the 24th, Christmas Eve. How many senators were present? Were there 3 present as they passed that legislation, forever enslaving the people of the United States and the world. Yeah, that's a good one. Look, boom, 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 boom. This is Jeremy too. I don't know how many cities are shutting down back to Delta, right? We saw New York City imposing severe, strict restrictions, and also the Bay Area as well. They're masking up. There's a chance of continued restrictions. The Delta variant also, I believe in the UK, Europe, and some other areas has been, JP Morgan said is peaking out, right? I follow the investment banks and their forecast of what they're looking for the virus. It's more helpful than listening to the TV programming, So do I think that that's going to peak out over here in the US as well? Most likely soon. It's only a matter of time. Listen, you can't, there's a difference between the virus and the actions of certain overlords in certain geographical areas and what they choose to do. Are we seeing further lockdowns as they go back to school? We're seeing pressure from the federal government. They're trying to, have the conversation about whether or not they could mandate these type of, I don't want to say restrictions or vaccinations, right? And they're kind of like, the FDA is looking for approval as early as October, I believe, for the Pfizer vaccine. At that point, will more and more school districts and unions make it mandatory? It certainly looks like it. What that means for further spread of the virus itself. There's how many people in the New York area are vaccinated? It must be like, someone told me yesterday that lives there, it was 70% of the population is vaccinated. Maybe of adults or those able to be vaccinated for sure. Obviously kids are not. And what about those with natural immunity and antibodies from already being infected? We should be close to herd immunity. How much further the virus is going to be some type of headwind for the economy, I'm not so sure. Will it be used as an excuse, though, to deploy further quantitative easing and stimulus? Well, that seems to be the base case. That's the base case we've had here for a while, continuing to play out. SEC, let's talk about it really quick. This morning on Bloomberg, if you go to Zero Hedge to find this article and click on the Bloomberg link, it's something you might want to go over today and read in full. Lots of interesting stuff. But at the end of the day, is this signal or is this noise? Right? Today, I believe in Aspen, we have the SEC chairman speaking, and he's going to be talking about further regulation in the industry, right? They would like to be able to launch a Bitcoin ETF, and before they do that, they feel that they need more regulation, right? Now, there are other people like the former SEC chair who believes that, listen, everyone should have the right to send money to any party they want without any other type of oversight, right? And this conversation needs to take place. These things are not generally done with a conversation. They're done by those, the powers that be. We will see what they do. And, all we could do is act off of that. This is, I think, the most important piece of this, right? To be sure, many in the crypto industry see Gensler as somebody with a higher level of understanding compared with most political appointees or politicians. The hope is that increased regulation will lead to more adoption. And it's true. When we talk about adoption, you're talking about increased regulation. As you saw, as we laid out the whole ESG narrative for Bitcoin and the importance of that, as the cool thing to do right now is to invest in ESG, whether it is or it isn't, right? It's a big deal, right? Will regulation open up massive amounts of more money into the industry? Yeah. Does that change Bitcoin? Could you change Bitcoin? Do they have the power to change Bitcoin? Matt Odell, Marty Bent, the Tales from the Crypt. Watch when those guys just talk. They released their podcast on Thursday. I haven't listened in a long while, and reason being, anyway, I have for personal reasons, but I spent over a year listening to them, probably back in 2017, 2018, around that time. And if you're interested in operational security and understanding a lot of different nuances than Bitcoin than I offer and share with you, that's the place to do it. Could this all backfire? If the SEC does approve a Bitcoin ETF, why there's no indication that the US regulation will be anywhere as strict as Beijing's, right? Right, well, that's the truth. There's no indication so far that the US regulation will be as strict as Beijing's crackdown, appropriately put. With the Fed developing its own crypto, though, do you remember those guys over at the Bank of New York, the Federal Reserve? Those guys are diabolical. They are diabolical. I wrote, social justice, one of the greatest evils in the world is the Federal Reserve and the central banking system. The government has every incentive to try and undermine Bitcoin. Let's hope the community isn't being blinded as Gensler's slick talk about increased adoption. Listen, if you're in it for the money, right? If you're in it for the money, at the end of the day, you'll be in it for Bitcoin. You will be orange pilled. If you came for the money, you're going to stay for the freedom. There's no question about that. Bitcoin's going to teach you a lot of things over time. It's going to change your time preference. It's going to change your understanding. The red pill opens up the door for the orange pill, right? But anyway, my belief is that Bitcoin is the honey badger, and regardless of what situation is thrown at it, it's going to prevail, and it's going to come out stronger. It's going to come out on top. But I did that work a long time ago. Before I put half my net worth into Bitcoin, I understood why. All right, Giles taking a look at silver. Oh, right before going live, Giles sent over these two charts. Let's look at silver and gold. I'm going to start over here with gold, right? And gold, yeah. Ooh, look at her. She's coming into the trend line. We've been waiting for the next line of repair, right? Here was the breakdown. You remember when the trade was on silver, not on gold, but this trend line over here was the exit. And since the exit, we've been just waiting slowly like predators. Part of trading, one of the most important parts of trading is knowing when to act. Now, when it's time to act, you better be a fierce, apex predator. You better be the best when it's time to attack. But if you're out there, boom, boom, just flying things up, you're going to get wrecked. You're going to get eaten. There's no question about that. Lining this up over here, we're waiting to continue wait for gold to break out this trend line. I'm going to show you here briefly what I had, and then we'll look at Giles' chart work. And then silver on the candles, you could see why over here off of the wick or around the top of the wick, touching this wick. And then again, these two wicks happen to have come into it since. The break of this line, of this trend line, sets off the next repair on silver. For those looking to get an entry, that's what you're watching. So gold and silver are coming very close to a breakout. Now in these markets, it's breakout, retest, resumption. I've seen on gold a little bit more than, you remember me being back in 2019, early 2020, telling you sometimes on gold, I will take a breakout. Gold and silver together. I did it recently on silver. Sometimes, right? But I have to watch the price and be in the flow of the market if I'm doing that. If you want to go with what's safe, tried, trusted, and true, you go for the breakout, retest, resumption. As an entry, if an entry occurs over this week, we'll be there together. We'll look at them. With that in mind, let's take a look at what Giles has prepared for us. This is Ted. If you are a Wyckoff guy, you're going to have to pay attention to this, as we talked about the three peaks and a doomed house chart pattern taking place, or it looks like it's developing on Bitcoin. Love what Ted shares all the time. What is this? What is this? The Fed. Yes, this is like a lots of macro sprinkles in today's live stream. It's because it's important being able to read through all the propaganda. Right? Yesterday we had Fed's Waller warned that in the last hour of trading that if we get a good jobs data in the next 2 months, the Fed will taper early and fast. Now we know that we're probably going to get a good jobs data in the next 2 months as we see people returning back to work, right? As we see teachers going back to school, it's seasonal and it happens. Do you think that Fed's Waller knows that? Oh, sure he does. So when he says that, does he know that the market's reaction, or the desired reaction that he would like to have on the market, is that people are going to be scared that the taper's coming? Or is he giving everyone enough time to know that the taper's coming is the Fed doing what they can to signal as best they can ahead of time so that if they do taper, there's not some type of taper tantrum, that the market's ready for it, right? He thinks that if we see some nice job reports, that the Fed should be looking to raise their rates in 2020. How would the markets react, right? Do you think stocks would like that, right? What would perform best? Would it be small caps? Would it be the Nasdaq under that situation? Back to this, 30% of U.S. households missed their July housing payments. That's before the federal aid ended. Now that federal aid and program, which paid 60% of the rent due to the landlord, how do you like being a landlord and the federal government jumps in and they're like, you know what? Yeah, you want to get paid, you'll get paid, but you're getting paid 60%. I mean, that sounds a little bit like confiscation, real estate confiscation in my mind. But if that was happening, the program wasn't known to many. You know, just like they don't tell you to take care of your immune system, make sure that you take vitamin C, vitamin D, maybe some zinc if you're really worried, right? Make sure that you're getting exercise and plenty of sun, you know? Make sure that you keep your weight in balance. Do whatever you got to do. Intermittent fasting, a really good thing, right? No one's telling you how to take care of yourself. The same thing, they didn't tell you that these programs were available for those in need. The federal government also didn't pass any extension of help for these people, offering that opportunity. There was, I believe, the program in total was like, there was massive amounts of billions of dollars available, and like less than a tenth of the available funds were used. People are suffering. Do they want this? Do they want some type of correction in an overheated housing market? Is it possible that they believe the housing market is reflecting the rate of inflation all too well and that everyone's catching on? So they got to start talking about the taper, or they're ending these type of programs until what? Until something breaks. And once something breaks, there will be a massive response. And when that massive response takes place, once again, it will be what? Uber asset inflationary. And who's going to benefit? It's going to be the top, whatever it is, 1%, who are going to benefit greatly from it. And it's how they distribute the wealth. It's how they create wealth inequality. And don't think for a second that it's now calculated. These guys know exactly what they're doing and how to do it. They're masters, right? So that's gold and silver. We took a look at everything that we needed to do except the dollar. Let's take a look at the DXY over here. And let me jump over to candles so I can see what's going on. And you can see this line over here. It's not the best line, so I'm going to make it better, right? Just a couple of clarity right there. And I'm watching that line for damage. So far, she's holding, right? The dollar, I just want to go ahead and put in a line of repair, the first line of repair, so I could watch it and wait. And here we are. If you're following the dollar right now, you have the clear, if we break below this line, watch for the sellers again to make another leg down. Sellers already had their opportunity to attack. It was off of the failed break of the inverse head and shoulders. Here was the trend line at the time. You could see, stopped out on the first break, move it forward, second break over here. That trade's still in play. It looks like potentially we can make another leg down. Watching on the upside for a break of this trend line. This is the trend line that will keep us safe. We're going to just keep it here. When price breaks above it, we'll be looking for further dollar strength. I'm going to cut it off here, right? Because we have in 30 minutes, we got the CTM live training session. I'll be going over FX, any other markets we want to go over at that point, including altcoins. I'll post the link in the Discord, also send it out by email. But I want to make sure, now that I want to make sure I get myself an espresso here, give myself a boost as we keep going. Thanks for spending the time here together, everyone. Really appreciate it. I'm going to go out with some Honeymoon vocals. If you want to find the track in the beginning, it's Honeymoon Instrumental. You can find it on YouTube by Zib Moran. And this is Moran. And this is Honeymoon. Yeah, I agree. So in CB, Pure Vita, in reading that this morning, right before, that's my first thought to myself. Listen, the government wants theirs. The government has every right to get theirs, and they're going to do what they feel that they need to do to get theirs. I don't believe that the U.S. government's looking to crack down on Bitcoin. I believe that they're looking to open up the floodgates into Bitcoin, and they're going to use it as a way to generate tax revenue. Right? That's what they want. They're taking control, and that's what they're trying to do. Now, Bitcoiners, shadowy coders are going to be shadowy coders, laying down that free speech to change the world, right? And we're going to keep this as decentralized as possible, and we're going to make sure that we all, do our homework and stay up to speed so that we could use this technology as best as possible to advance humanity. All right, everyone. Have a beautiful day, and I'll see you all tomorrow.